Haha, here I am playing the Nintendo World Championships NES Edition video game for the Nintendo Switch family of systems. It has challenges from Kirby's Adventure in it, so it's almost like a new Kirby game.
Almost.
That's right, it's been a long time since a new Kirby game, kind of, I guess by Kirby standards. By human standards it hasn't. Yup, it's Kirby Manga Mania Volume 7. The long-running series of mangas continues in this latest volume, which we will now discuss. Let's freaking check it out!
Nice throw!
Wow. Hello, my infallible friends. It's time for Kirby Manga Volume 7. Look at the pixel art. I like pixel Kirby. Something came out about Kirby's whiskers in a recent video by Masahiro Sakurai on his YouTube channel. He brought up that Kirby had whiskers for far longer than was intended, and Sakurai kept telling people to remove the whiskers, but they didn't do it. But they are retained here in the Kirby manga. Kirby still has whiskers, kinda, I guess, or whatever the hell that design thing is supposed to be. You know, we Kirby fans have been really hurting. It's been about 3.8 milliseconds since the last game, and we're going a bit stir-crazy here. But in the meantime, we've got some nice manga cartoons to keep us occupied. Isn't that nice? Thank you, Hirokazu Hikawa. Thank you very much for the manga. It is good. Let's begin with Chapter 1, entitled, Who's the Biggest Rain Bringer of All Time? This one's a pretty simple start to the compilation. In it, King Dedede and Kirby compete to see who brings rain the most by their presence. They get into arguments, and in the end, there's not much of a resolution because King Dedede and Kirby are still arguing, but now they're arguing about who is the sun bringer as opposed to the rain bringer. Chapter 2, Parting is Such Sweet Sorrow. Kirby is having a real rough day because he has to say goodbye to his favorite type of potato chip. That being veggie juice soda chips, which sounds absolutely vile. I can't relate, sorry. So Kirby's having a real rough time. His friends try and help him through it, but he's inconsolable until he is finally convinced to try some plain chips and decides that plain potato chips are the tastiest of all, which, you know, pretty fair. I do like me a plain potato chip.
Yummers.
Chapter 3, The Ultimate Summer Vacation. This is a cozy little chapter. Kirby is trying to have the best vacation ever, but different chores and tasks keep delaying it. When Kirby has finally finished his perfect vacation setup, the vacation has concluded. So he'll have to wait till next year. Big sad. Chapter 4, A Passion for Fashion. King Dedede has outfitted himself in ridiculous attire, and his buddies just don't have the heart to tell him. However, when Adeline notices King Dedede, she takes note and says she thinks it's pretty dang fashionable and cool. And it's a pretty big surprise for these fellows, isn't it? Look at their shocked faces. Chapter 5, The Only Way to Have Quiet in the Library. Kirby has gone to the library and now must learn the social etiquette therein. You know, the thing with libraries is you must remain quiet, and Kirby is struggling to do that. Finally, Kirby just tires himself out, and while snoring, ends up inhaling all of the patrons of the library, and they are now stuck within the alternate dimension contained therein, which, as it turns out, is a pretty nice place to read some books, because quiet in there. That's an interesting new bit of lore. We'll have to note that down. Chapter 6, I Can Stay Up Late. Kirby really does want to stay up until New Year's on New Year's Eve, but is struggling to do so. He tries multiple different methods, but none are working. Finally, Meta Knight arrives and decides to duel with Kirby in order to keep him awake. And it works wonderfully. In fact, too wonderfully, because it turns out they stayed up till spring. Wowie Zowie. Chapter 7, A Gig at Waddle Dee Cafe. This chapter is of course themed around the Waddle Dee Cafe found in Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which is a nice reference. As the author notes, the character Waddy in this chapter is indeed very cute. So Kirby's working a shift at the cafe, and he has to deliver the food to King Dedede and Poppy Brothers Jr. He's got a lot of food to carry though, and is struggling to make it over, so gets assistance from his co-workers, who are, of course, Waddle Dees. They help him out, but are too effective as they end up carrying him all the way to the beach. They finally make it back to the cafe, and then are so tired out that they feel they deserve a reward, and so eat the food they were carrying, but King Dedede and pals are left hungry. What a travesty. We get a few author mutterings in this volume of Manga Mania. In this one, the author goes over how much the copyability beam has changed, and how it used to be much easier to draw than it is now. Chapter 8, April Fool's Day Face-Off, Kirby versus King Dedede. I think that this is an older edition of the manga because the artwork is a bit different. I haven't really noticed that before, but yeah, the art style does change a bit depending on the era by the looks of it. This is a good old competition between King Dedede and Kirby. King Dedede is going around pranking everybody on April Fool's Day, and Kirby and friends decide that he needs to be shown what's what. So they try and do some pranks, all of which are horrendous failures. King Dedede disguises himself as Kirby's long-lost big brother, but the prank works too well, and Kirby is totally convinced that he does actually have a big brother, and they go on various misadventures together. What ends up happening is King Dedede is horribly abused until the costume breaks, and his swollen and horrifying face is revealed. He outs himself as King Dedede, but nobody believes him, because he does not look like himself. I mean, what is this? Chapter 9. Kirby forms the rescue squad. It's a nice day at the beach, and Kirby decides that he wants to become a rescuer and rescue the beach people. The problem is that most of them don't really need rescuing, so Kirby has to invent situations in which they need to be rescued. He creates a giant whirlpool which entraps King Dedede, who refuses to ask for help because he doesn't want Kirby to have his way. Finally he does though, and is rescued. In the process, however, the beach is totally destroyed. So, good going. Chapter 10. Kirby in love with King Dedede. King Dedede takes note that there are no women in Dreamland at all. They just don't really exist. He sees a beautiful lady, but it turns out it's just Kirby in a costume, because he's playing Juliet in Romeo and Juliet. King Dedede, however, thinks it is a lady, and so, of course, he commissions the creation of a love potion. Kirby ends up eating the apples, which have been infused with the love potion, resulting in Kirby falling in love with King Dedede. King Dedede tries to escape, but is to no avail. Chapter 11, Diving into The Little Mermaid. This is a Little Mermaid parody chapter, which is odd. Kirby is the titular Little Mermaid, and King Dedede is the prince. There are a fair amount of deviations from the original story, such as Kirby wanting to kill the prince in order to not turn back into sea foam, and then at the very end Kirby just decides he doesn't actually want to turn into sea foam. Him and all his friends decide to live on land, including Kine, which is scary. Chapter 12, The Grateful Pauloff. I'm not entirely sure if this is a game character. If it is, it's very obscure and I haven't heard of it. Let me just Google this real fast. He appears in one stage in Dreamland 3. What the hell? Okay, this is a very obscure character, and it has an entire chapter devoted to it. Okay, I approve. So Pauloff is basically a rabbit, and he's going around stealing vegetables from King Dedede's garden. How unfortunate. Pauloff finds Kirby, and they become friends, and end up defeating King Dedede by yelling at him or something. This is a short, little strange one, but nice use of Pauloff. Big seal of approval on that. Chapter 13, The Submarine Scare. I really like submarines. I think they're really cool. Steel Diver Sub Wars on the 3DS was a lot of fun, so I approve of the concept of submarines, and seeing it used in Kirby Manga Mania, well, how could I say no to that? Sweet Stuff has discovered a shipwreck on the seafloor and tells King Dedede, Kirby, and friends. King Dedede creates a submarine entitled the Dedede, wonder where he got the name, and decides to go to the seafloor. He doesn't want any of his pals though, so he leaves them behind. Kirby, however, convinces King Dedede to let him join in. Kirby, King Dedede, and Poppy Brothers Jr. go to the sea floor, but Kirby, as usual, is causing a lot of issues, resulting in the submarine breaking down. They're all stuck down there and need to figure out how to escape. There's also this one frame of King Dedede plugging a bunch of leaks, and I really hate it. I haven't slept since I've seen this image. Finally, Kirby decides to solve the problem by yelling SOS to the surface. Gooey hears the help signal and uses his long tongue to retrieve them from the depths. I gotta say again, I really like the characterization of Gooey in these comics. He's just kind of a weird thing, which is very appropriate. Here we have another author mutterings, this time the design of Meta Knight and how it's become a lot more complicated, and it sure has, friend, it sure has. Chapter 14, Defend King Dedede. King Dedede appears to be a fugitive from everyone in Dreamland and is running away, and Kirby, for some reason, is protecting him. It's very dramatic and such. Finally, they're all caught and put in a cage, but it turns out they were just playing cops and robbers. As King Dedede says, "You fellas don't have to take it so seriously." And that's the end of the manga. We get an author's note. No official announcement of another volume, but I think it's entirely possible that we will get that. So we'll see if that happens. I wouldn't expect one till probably this time next year. And that's Kirby Manga Mania Volume 7. Still going strong. There's a lot of this Kirby manga, it appears. Yeah. And you know what's cool? A lot of it's pretty dang fun. You know, some of these chapters, not my favorite. Some of them do get some laughs though. It's always goofy, it's always lighthearted, and you know, I just gotta appreciate seeing Kirby in this form. It's fun. While we wait for the next Kirby game, consuming alternative forms of Kirby media is a pretty fun way to make the wait feel less long. Recommended this if you like the other Kirby mangas. Stands to reason that you'll like this one too. Thanks for joining me on the Manga Mania adventure. I hope you enjoyed the Manga Mania Volume 7 video that I just made.